Former Vice President Dick Cheney speaks out about the Justice Department decision to investigate possible CIA abuses.
Why don't you think it's going to stop there?
The new administration's first 7 months.
What do you think of Barack Obama?
And his relationship with former President Bush.
Did you feel that he went soft in the second term?
Dick Cheney, as you have never seen him before, exclusively on Fox News Sunday. Then we'll bring you the latest on that explosive story we reported last week. Is the Obama administration pushing a death book on our veterans? And how will history judge Ted Kennedy's life and career? We'll hear from our Sunday panel, Salmon, Liasson, Crystal, and Williams, all right now on Fox News Sunday. And hello again from Fox News in Washington. The Obama Justice Department made big news this week, launching a review that could lead to prosecution of CIA officers. Now, you'll hear from former Vice President Dick Cheney, Barack Obama's leading critic when it comes to the war on terror. On Friday, we traveled to Cheney's vacation home just outside Jackson Hole, Wyoming. He told us he feels liberated now that he's left office. And as you'll see, Cheney was surprisingly candid, not only about this president, but also about areas where he disagreed with President Bush. Mr. Vice President, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
It's good to be back, Chris.
This is your first interview since Attorney General Holder named a prosecutor to investigate possible CIA abuses of terror detainees. What do you think of that decision?
I think it's a terrible decision. President Obama made the announcement some weeks ago that this would not happen, that his administration would not go back and look at or try to prosecute CIA personnel. And the effort now is based upon the Inspector General's report that was sent to the Justice Department 5 years ago. It was completely reviewed by the Justice Department in years past. They made decisions about whether or not there was any prosecutable offense there. They found one. It did not involve CIA personnel. It involved contractor personnel. That individual was sentenced and is doing time. The matter has been dealt with the way you would expect it to be dealt with by professionals. Now we've got a political appointee coming back and supposedly without the approval of the president going to do a complete review or another complete investigation, possible prosecution of CIA personnel. We could talk the whole program about the negative consequences of that, about the terrible precedent it sets to have agents involved, CIA personnel involved in a difficult program that's approved by the Justice Department, approved by the National Security Council in the Bush administration, and then when a new administration comes in, it becomes political. They may find themselves dragged up before a grand jury, have to hire attorneys on their own because the Justice Department won't provide them with counsel. It's a terrible, terrible precedent.
There are a lot of aspects that you just raised. Let me review some of them. Why are you so concerned about the idea of one administration reviewing, investigating the actions of another one?
Well, you think, for example, in the intelligence arena. We ask those people to do some very difficult things, sometimes that put their own lives at risk. They do so at the direction of the president. They do so with in this case, we had specific legal authority from the Justice Department. And if they are now going to be subject to being investigated and prosecuted by the next administration, nobody's going to sign up for those kinds of missions. It's a very, very devastating, I think, effect that it has on morale inside the intelligence community. If they assume that they're going to have to be dealing with the political consequences, and it's clearly a political move, I mean, there's no other rationale for why they're doing this, then they'll be very reluctant.
You think this was a political move, not a law enforcement move?
Absolutely. I think the fact is the Justice Department has already reviewed the Inspector General's report 5 years ago. And now they're dragging it back up again, and Holder is going to go back and review it again, supposedly to try to find some evidence of wrongdoing by CIA personnel.
But
in other words, a review is never going to be final anymore now. We can have somebody, some future administration come along 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and go back and rehash all of these decisions by an earlier administration.
Let me follow up on that. The Attorney General says this is a preliminary review, not a criminal investigation. It is just about CIA officers who went beyond their legal authorization. Why don't you think it's going to stop there?
I don't believe it. We had the President of the United States, President Obama, tell us a few months ago there wouldn't be any investigation like this, that there would not be any look back at CIA personnel who were carrying out the policies of the prior administration. Now they get a little heat from the left wing of the Democratic Party, and they're reversing course on that. The President is the chief law enforcement officer in the administration. He's now saying, well, this isn't anything that he's got anything to do with. He's up on vacation in Martha's Vineyard, and his Attorney General is going back and doing something that the President said some months ago they wouldn't do.
But when you say it's not going to stop there, you don't believe it's going to stop there. Do you think this will become an investigation into the Bush lawyers who authorized the activity, into the top policymakers who were involved in the decision to have an enhanced interrogation program?
Well, I have no idea whether it will or not. But it shouldn't. The fact of the matter is the lawyers in the Justice Department who gave us those opinions had every right to give us the opinions they did. Now you get a new administration, they say, well, we didn't like those opinions, we're going to go investigate those lawyers and perhaps have them disbarred. I just think it's an outrageous precedent to set, to have this kind of I think intensely partisan, politicized look back at the prior administration. I guess the other thing that offends the hell out of me, frankly, Chris, is we had a track record now of 8 years of defending the nation against any further mass casualty attacks from al-Qaeda. The approach of the Obama administration should be to come to those people who were involved in that policy and say, how did you do it? What were the keys to keeping the country safe over that period of time? Instead, they're out there now threatening to disbar the lawyers who gave us the legal opinions, threatening, contrary to what the President originally said, they're going to go out and investigate the CIA personnel who carried out those investigations. I think it's an outrageous political act that will do great damage long-term to our capacity to be able to have people take on difficult jobs, make difficult decisions without having to worry about what the next administration is going to say.
If the prosecutor asked to speak to you, will you speak to him?
It'll depend on the circumstances and what I think their activities are really involved in. I've been very outspoken in my views on this matter. I've been very forthright publicly in talking about my involvement in these policies. I'm very proud of what we did in terms of defending the nation for the last 8 years successfully. And it won't take a prosecutor to find out what I think. I've already expressed those views.
Let me ask you say you're proud of what we did. This Inspector General's report, which was just released from 2004, details some specific interrogations, mock executions, one of the detainees threatened with a handgun and with an electric drill, waterboarding Khalid Sheikh Mohammed 183 times. First of all, did you know that was going on?
I knew about the waterboarding, not specifically in any one particular case, but as a general policy that we had approved. The fact of the matter is the Justice Department reviewed all of those allegations several years ago. They looked at this question of whether or not somebody had an electric drill in an interrogation session. It was never used on the individual, or that they brought in a weapon, never used on the individual. The judgment was made then that there wasn't anything there that was improper or illegal with respect to
Do you think what they did, now that you've heard about it, do you think what they did was wrong?
Chris, my sort of overwhelming view is that the enhanced interrogation techniques were absolutely essential in saving thousands of American lives, in preventing further attacks against the United States, and giving us the intelligence we needed to go find al-Qaeda, to find their camps, to find out how they were being financed. Those interrogations were involved in the arrest of nearly all of the al-Qaeda members that we were able to bring to justice. I think they were directly responsible for the fact that for 8 years we had no further mass casualty attacks against the United States. It was good policy. It was properly carried out. It worked very, very well.
So even these cases where they went beyond the specific legal authorization, You're okay with it?
I am.